If you're a fan of DC's mystical corners, the occult, the weird, and the wonderfully obscure, then buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the final chapter of one of DC's most underrated magic teams, Shadowpact. This video isn't just a recap, it's a full exploration of the creative forces behind Shadowpact 25, the surprising history of the title, why it ended, and how this finale cements the team's legacy across the DC universe. We've got exclusive insights from people who actually made this comic happen, including writer Lilah Sturges and legendary letterer Sal Cipriano, from the editors who shaped it, to the artist who brought the magic to life, to the strange place this issue occupies in DC's 2008 landscape. We're breaking down the context, the creators, the ads, the market, and the legacy. So grab a seat at the Oblivion Bar, let's jump into Shadowpact's last stand. In their last epic battle, the Shadowpact faces their greatest threat yet, the godlike Sun King. Will the combined forces of Shadowpacts from the past and the future be enough to defeat him? When Phantom Stranger, the entity that helped bring Shadowpact together, informs them that a universe-devouring being known as the Sun King is about to enter their world, the team is ready for a fight, even if they're greatly outmatched. The Stranger reaches out to the past and the future to recruit other Shadowpact groups. With their combined forces, they take the Sun King head-on and try to stop him before he can enter our universe. The Sun King has been aided by Shadowpact's nemesis, Dr. Gotham, and Jack of Fire, Blue Devil's older brother. Once the Sun King has devoured enough souls to pull himself into our world, he possesses Dr. Gotham and casts Jack of Fire aside, no longer needing his assistance. As this comic opens, the three Shadowpact groups confront the Sun King, using both magic and brute force to keep him at bay. But his absorption abilities are too powerful. They need to come up with a better plan. Blue Devil, who recently recovered his soul at the expense of his powers, confronts his big brother in battle. Jack of Fire, now without purpose, convinces Blue Devil to end his life, which would restore Blue Devil's powers and allow him to keep his soul. Blue Devil refuses, but his hand is forced, quite literally. The Shadowpact magicians come up with a plan to siphon the power away from the Sun King. However, they would need many more, if not hundreds of magicians to pull this off. While working on a powerful enough spell, the rest of the team fight a horde of demons, imps, and other nightmarish creatures. The team is beginning to lose hope when Blue Devil appears, complete with powers and his trusty trident, and begins to tackle the oncoming horde almost single-handedly. With the spell ready, the Shadowpact magicians use the Sun King's own energy to send out their spell across time, to every Shadowpact team in the distant past to the far future. Hundreds of powerful magicians act as one and begin to siphon the Sun King's energy. The plan works, and the husk of Dr. Gotham is all that is left of the entity. With their nemesis destroyed and the Sun King banished from this world, the various Shadowpact teams begin to return to their own time stream. Phantom Stranger regroups with the team at their headquarters, the Oblivion Bar, to congratulate them. They helped redeem the name of Shadowpact from a group of magician rejects to a legitimate superhero team, not just now, but throughout time. The Phantom Stranger raises a glass to the Shadowpact. This is the end of their story. This is the final story of a 9-comic run written by Lilah Sturges. Sturges is best known for co-writing the Eisner Award-nominated Jack of Fables with Bill Willingham. 2008 was also when she began writing a 42-issue House of Mystery for DC. Other titles written by Sturges include Blue Beetle, Final Crisis Aftermath, Run, and Justice Society of America. Speaking exclusively to Read the Freaking Comics, she comments on her time writing Shadowpact. I loved writing the series. It was my first DCU book, and it was a blast to do. Love me some Detective Chimp. The interiors and inks were done by Phil Winslade. Some of Winslade's earliest work was on Crisis and Revolver, as well as inking Steve Dillon's work on Car Warriors for Epic. Winslade's big break was working on Garth Ennis' Goddess for Vertigo. He has worked for Marvel, DC, and 2000 AD, among others. Colorist and cover artist Michael Atiyeh began his comics career at CrossGen, eventually becoming the assistant art director. He began managing both in-house and freelance artists. In 2003, he left to pursue work as a freelance artist, working on a variety of projects for Dark Horse, including Star Wars, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Tomb Raider. Other DC titles he has worked on include All-Star Western, Batmite, and Lobo. In 2012, he was part of the team that launched Shinku, a creator-owned title published by Image Comics that has received critical acclaim. Fellow cover artist Tom Derenick began his career in 1992 working for Malibu Comics on the title Ferret. His first published work for DC was in 1994's Star Trek. He was later hired by Marvel to work on Night Thrasher, Venom, X-Men, and more. While at DC, he has been working on titles like He-Man and the Master of the Universe, Infinite Crisis, Fight for the Multiverse, Injustice, Gods Among Us, and more. The third and final cover artist on this issue was Wayne Foucher. Foucher is best known mostly for his ink work on the Batman family of comics for DC and for Spider-Man titles at Marvel. His first big break was in 1995 work on the DC series Impulse. Letter's Sal Cipriano began his career at Angry Dog Press in 2001. His first published work for DC was 2008's Countdown to Adventure, and later he worked on titles like Scooby-Doo, Teen Titans Go, and Legion of Superheroes in the 31st Century. Cipriano has worked as a lettering supervisor. He has worked on titles like Catwoman, Convergence Superman, and Convergence Wonder Woman. Speaking exclusively with Read the Freaking Comics, Sal discusses this issue. Wow, talk about going way back. I think this was one of the first books I lettered outside the kids' books at DC. Working with editors Joey Cavalieri and Stephanie Buscema was always great though. Speaking of the editors, Joey Cavalieri is best known for his work on the DC characters Green Arrow and Huntress, as well as the co-creation of Helena Bertolini, the third Huntress. Cavalieri first joined DC Comics full-time in 1982 after working 3 years as a freelancer. In 1985, Cavalieri and artist Jerome K. Moore introduced a new costume for Black Canary in Detective Comics 554. At Marvel, he was a group editor of the Marvel 2099 series from 1992 to 96, and wrote stories for several Marvel titles such as The Avengers, Marvel Comics Presents, and Web of Spider-Man before returning to DC. In 2005, DC promoted him to senior editor. Stephanie Buscema is known for her work as an assistant editor at DC, as well as her later career as an illustrator. She joined DC early in her professional life, working under such editors as Joey Cavalieri and contributing to projects including Salvation Run, before shifting her focus fully to art. Coming from a legendary comics family as the granddaughter of John Buscema, she continued the tradition while developing her own voice, working primarily in traditional media like gouache. After leaving DC editorial, she began a successful career as a freelance artist across comics, illustration, and children's publishing, earning recognition for her vibrant, vintage-inspired style. Executive editor at the time was Dan Didio. Having been promoted to vice president executive 2 years earlier, he was named co-publisher of DC in 2010 along with Jim Lee. As co-publisher, he saw the reboot of several DC titles and was the co-writer of the OMAC series with artist Keith Giffen. Didio wrote Challengers of the Unknown storyline for DC Universe Presents, which was drawn by Jerry Ordway. Shadowpact was the brainchild of Bill Willingham, a comic writer and artist who by that time had worked on DC, Vertigo, Marvel, Comico, and even designed covers for various D&D products. The Shadowpact were originally seen in the 2005 Day of Vengeance storyline, where they fought the Spectre in his misguided quest to destroy all magic. After that miniseries, DC launched their own self-titled series in May of 2026. Members of the modern-day Shadowpact include Blue Devil, a former actor who was cursed by a demon and now wears his Blue Devil costume as the real deal. Detective Chimp, an anthropomorphized chimp with exceptional intelligence who gains the ability to speak and everlasting youth through magical means. Enchantress, spending a majority of her time as a villain, Enchantress fights the good fight with the Shadowpact team. Her alter ego, June Moon, was gifted the powers of the Enchantress in Strange Adventures 187 from April of 1966. Nightmaster, rock star Jim Rook becomes Nightmaster after a fateful encounter at the Oblivion bookstore, transporting him to the mystical land of Mira, where he learns he is the descendant of the mighty Miran warrior Nak. Embracing his heritage, he fights with the Shadowpact using his magical sword of night. Nightshade, originally a Carlton Comics character and partner to Captain Atom, Nightshade, whose real name is Eve Eden, was originally the daughter of Magda, a being from a dimension with the ability to manipulate and control shadows. Ragman, aka Rory Regan, whose costume consists of enchanted rags that contain the evil souls of his victims. He can often use the knowledge and abilities of those souls in his adventures. Warlock's daughter. The resurrected human known as Warlock's daughter was in fact Darla Acquista, the daughter of Gotham mobster Henry Acquista. Initially a supervillain, she turns to good and becomes an apprentice of Enchantress. And finally there is Zariel, a guardian angel who served heaven for millions of years. He willingly falls to Earth to serve humanity as their champion and joins Shadowpact. Interestingly enough, Enchantress, Blue Devil, and Ragman have all appeared in a DC live-action television or movie in the last 15 years. The team's headquarters is the back end of the Oblivion Bar, a magical tavern in a pocket universe often frequented by magical beings. As mentioned, after 2 years and 25 issues, Shadowpact was cancelled mainly due to declining sales. From roughly $20,000 in sales for issue 12 to $14,000 by issue 24, this is a significant drop of 30% over 1 year, and this typically triggers risk assessments by publishers. DC likely decided the series was no longer viable to continue. Shadowpact did appear in the Reign of Hell miniseries 3 months later. A version of Shadowpact appears in the Deceased universe, first showing up in Deceased Dead Planet number 2 from 2020. This was my first trip down the magical corridors of Shadowpact. Having known Blue Devil from Swamp Thing lore and the Enchantress from various DC titles, I knew what I was in for. I'm a fan of Justice League Dark, and I saw Shadowpact as a proto-version of that team. I read the entire Burning Age run of this comic in order to prepare for this deep dive, and I quite enjoyed it. I like Enchantress' hero turn and her dynamic with Nightmaster, who, while not present in the final issue, was the team's leader for a while. Zoriel's look and personality caught my attention. I liked his attitude and general aura. Although he was in an issue of Justice League Dark and Future State, I'd like to see more of that character in the future. You can probably pick up this 5-issue run fairly cheaply. It's definitely worth checking out. At the very least, DC Infinite has the first 13 issues available on their basic plan. Give it a try. Unfortunately, I am seeing this comic going for $0 off its high of $26 for mint issues in December of 2024. Meanwhile, comicbookrealm.com lists this issue worth $3, and hipcomic.com has a near mint issue for sale at $75. In 2008, DC was securely in second place among comic publishers, with 32% market share, behind Marvel but well ahead of all other competitors. That year, sales were aided by Warner Bros.' extremely successful blockbuster The Dark Knight. This was to change, however, as Marvel had just begun their dominant MCU movie universe and massive comic tie-in pushes, meaning DC's market share did go down significantly in the decade that followed. While titles like Batman remained strong, some DC imprints like Wildstorm and Vertigo saw softer sales in 2008. DC would shut down Wildstorm just 2 years later, and Vertigo was shut down in 2019. DC's TV presence was strong during this period, although nothing compared to the 2012 period onward with the Arrowverse. In 2008, Smallville was airing its 7th and 8th seasons. Meanwhile, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animations were in syndication. Crypto the Superdog was airing on Cartoon Network along with Teen Titans and The Batman. Meanwhile, the WB cartoon block included Legion of Superheroes. In July of 2008, 7.2 million comics were sold, generating an estimated $23 million. DC specifically sold 2.5 million comics for an estimated revenue of $7.6 million. DC remains solidly behind Marvel, as mentioned, Marvel selling 3.5 million copies that month, while Dark Horse, Image, and IDW lagged very far behind. The top-selling titles in July 2008 were DC's Trinity, Marvel's Amazing Spider-Man, Secret Invasion, and Uncanny X-Men, as well as DC's Batman. The top 5 issues were Secret Invasion number 4, Uncanny X-Men 500, Astonishing X-Men 25, New Avengers 43, and Batman 678. The top-selling DC issues that month were Batman 678, Justice League of America 23, Justice Society of America 17, Final Crisis Requiem number 1, and Detective Comics 846. No Shadowpact titles were in the top 300 list that month. For a 2008 comic, this issue has a surprising number of ads. No less than 8 brands were promoting their products or services in this issue alone. Plus, DC was promoting several other titles. The main centerfold features 2 ads. The first was for Trinity, the year-long event written by Kurt Busiek and Fabian Nicieza, with art by Mark Bagley and others. It focuses on the DC Trinity, the name often given to Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. The other ad was a promo for Dragon Ball Z on DVD. There was an ad for the anti-drinking campaign Above the Influence. The website, abovetheinfluence.com, is still active today, though it redirects you to drugfree.org. Ugly Doll Comic was promoting its latest release, and Little Brown and Company were promoting their Vampirates young adults novel on the back cover. Apparently, Got Milk was still a thing in 2008, as there was a Steve Nash ad in this issue, along with the U.S. Navy promoting recruitment. Heavy metal band Disturbed were promoting their 4th album, Indestructible. It was rated only 2-star on Rolling Stone. Xbox 360 were promoting Ninja Gaiden 2, which received generally favorable reviews from critics. Finally, the other 3 titles DC were promoting was the Batman R.I.P. storyline, in which Black Glove's elaborate psychological assault pushes Batman to the brink of madness, forcing him to confront his own identity and survive the ultimate attempt to destroy him. Final Crisis Rogue's Revenge deals with the aftermath of Bart Allen's death, while Hush appears in an ad featuring only a single word, envy. This is most likely a promotion for the 7 Deadly Sins storyline, which kicked off with Titans Volume 2, Number 3, from August of 2008. The Sun King breaks through our universe in River Rock, Wyoming, which is a fictional town. The closest thing I could find was Rock River, Wyoming, which has a population of under 300 people. Just a short 2-hour drive away, you'll find Spellbound Apothecary and Entertainment, an artisanal apothecary that carries crystals, games, and comics. This comic shop matches our magical aesthetic for this video. If you are ever in the area, I recommend checking them out at 601 Southeast Wyoming Boulevard in Casper, Wyoming, or visit them online at spellboundcasper.com. And that's a wrap on Shadowpact 25 and the magical world of this underrated DC team. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any future breakdowns. Got thoughts on Shadowpact, the creator, or the final issue? Drop a comment below. I love hearing from you. You can also share this video with fellow comic fans who need to see this hidden gem. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to read the freaking comics.